The Arizona sun was going down slowly, painting the sky with beautiful golden and red colors. A warm wind moved the tall palm trees back and forth. The only sound was the soft trickling of water near the pool. Everything was quiet and peaceful. Keanu Reeves, now 60 years old, walked slowly around his pool. He wore an old black t-shirt, shorts, and sandals that looked just as worn out as he felt. Every step he took was slow and careful, like he had learned to enjoy every quiet moment. His backyard was his safe place, surrounded by tall walls and fences. A small but beautiful garden added color to the space. This place meant everything to him. It was where he felt safe, where he could be alone, away from the noisy world. But the most special part of the backyard was the pool. It wasn't just water. It was like a mirror, reflecting the peace he had worked so hard to find. As he scrubbed the pool's edge with a brush, he felt a strong wave of gratitude. His life had been long, full of good and bad moments, full of light and shadow. But now, here in Chandler, he finally had what he had always wanted: peace. Over the years, the neighborhood had changed. The old, quiet families who had once lived here had slowly moved away. Now, younger families with loud kids and noisy dogs had taken their place. The peaceful days of neighbors quietly respecting each other were gone. Keanu didn't like the noise, but he tried to understand. The world changes, he told himself. What mattered was keeping his space private, keeping his peace safe. Then something strange happened. One Saturday, Keanu got out of the pool and noticed something unusual. There were wet footprints on the ground. But they weren't his. They were fresh, too small for his feet, and led toward the fence that separated his yard from his neighbor Olivia's. That was strange, he thought. Then he saw a pool float lying on the grass, half deflated, in a place where it didn't belong. He stood there thinking. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe an animal had dragged it. But deep inside he already knew the truth. This wasn't an accident. That night he made sure to lock the gate properly. He even checked the alarm system just in case. But when morning came, he tried to convince himself it was nothing. Maybe he was overthinking it. Maybe it was just a mistake. That same morning he met Olivia for the first time. She stood on the other side of the fence, holding a cup of tea in one hand. She wore fancy workout clothes, the kind that people wear even when they never actually work out. Her smile was wide, too wide. It was the kind of smile that people practice in the mirror to make themselves look friendly. But her eyes told a different story. Her eyes showed something else, something that made Keanu uncomfortable. "Hi, neighbor. You must be Keanu. I've heard so much about you," she said with a bright, high-pitched laugh. Keanu nodded. "Good morning. My kids loved your pool yesterday. They kept calling it a magic lake. You know how kids are." She laughed again, but there was something in her voice, a mocking tone, like she was testing him. "If they made a mess, just let me know, okay?" Keanu stood still. He didn't know what to say. He was still thinking about the wet footprints, the pool float, and now Olivia's words. She was acting like her kids being in his yard was completely normal, as if she had already decided it was okay. Then, through the fence, her voice rang out again, almost like a song. "They're just kids, Keanu." And she laughed, a laugh that was both sweet and sharp at the same time. Keanu didn't say anything. He just stood there, watching the water ripple in the pool, watching the sky change colors. He had spent years building this peaceful home, and now someone was ignoring his boundaries. Little did Olivia know, this small splash would change everything. The next morning, Keanu sat by the pool, staring into the still water. The laughter from yesterday echoed in his mind like a song he couldn't turn off. He had spent his whole life avoiding fights. He didn't like noise. He didn't like drama. He chose silence, not because he was weak, but because he loved peace. But now he was realizing something new. Peace only exists when people respect it. That afternoon, he decided to talk to Olivia. She was outside watering her plants. She moved gracefully, like someone who wanted to be watched, even when no one was looking. "Hi again," she said without turning her head. Keanu stood by the fence, hands in his pockets. He spoke calmly but firmly. "Olivia, I need to talk to you about yesterday." "Oh, I know," she interrupted with a bright smile. "The boys can be a little wild, but come on, Keanu. They're just kids. And you're always alone in there. I thought it might be nice for you to hear some laughter. They jumped into my pool without permission," he said. "But they didn't break anything, right?" She tilted her head, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "Come on, don't be that neighbor." Keanu felt something shift inside him. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something worse. It was disbelief. She wasn't sorry. She was trying to make him feel like he was wrong for wanting his own space. "Respecting someone's space isn't optional," he said. Olivia chuckled, shaking her head like he was being silly. Keanu, no offense, but you have this beautiful pool and you never use it. What's the harm if a few kids have fun for an hour? Keanu didn't answer. There was nothing more to say. Over the next week, the visits didn't stop. They got worse. The kids became bolder. They brought their friends. 4, 5, sometimes 6 kids ran into his yard, screaming, splashing, leaving trash everywhere. Snack wrappers. Soda cans. One afternoon, Keanu found his pool skimmer broken in half and thrown aside like garbage. Another day, someone used his garden hose to spray water into his shed. Keanu tried to stay calm. He locked the gate, added a chain, got a new lock. But somehow they kept coming back. It wasn't just kids anymore. It was a complete lack of respect. He started talking to his other neighbors. Carefully. Politely. Some listened. Most just smiled awkwardly and shrugged. That's just Olivia, one said. She's confident. Another, a man with a big belly and a lazy voice, laughed and said, You're a big star, man. What's a few kids in your pool? Take it as a compliment. Keanu walked home that evening feeling heavier than he had in years. He wasn't angry. Not yet. What he felt was worse. He felt alone in a way that had nothing to do with being by himself. It was a kind of loneliness that happens when everyone around you believes something wrong is okay. That night, Keanu sat in front of his computer and ordered security cameras. Not just any cameras, high definition, motion activated, night vision, and wide-angle lenses. He needed proof. If no one believed his words, maybe they would believe a video. Maybe they would finally see what was happening. After placing the order, he turned his attention to the gate. The wooden fence had never felt secure enough. He reinforced it once more, drilling in a steel bracket, installing a custom padlock. Every screw he twisted into the wood wasn't just about securing the fence. It felt like he was anchoring his right to say, This is mine. This is enough. A few days later, the equipment arrived. Keanu spent the evening setting it up with care. Each camera was placed strategically, covering every vulnerable angle of his property. It was precise work, silent, methodical. Once everything was in place, a new routine formed. Every night after sunset, Keanu would sit in his living room, sip green tea, and review the recordings. At first, everything was exactly as expected. Kids sneaking into his backyard, climbing the fence, giggling, splashing in his pool. Sometimes they tossed things into his garden. It was annoying but not unexpected. He had dealt with this before. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. Keanu sat down, remote in hand, tired but focused. He fast-forwarded through the usual footage. Kids climbing over the fence, their small silhouettes darting under the moonlight. Then, he stopped, rewound, played it again. Something was different. Something was wrong. 3 days later, on Thursday, Keanu was driving home when he noticed something unusual even before turning onto his street. Music, laughter, the unmistakable roar of a crowd. His stomach clenched. He parked the car, stepped out, and stared ahead in disbelief. His gate, the one he had locked with care, was wide open. Beyond the tall wooden fence, flickering lights cast moving shadows across the walls of his house. Music boomed. Voices cheered. Keanu's footsteps slowed as he approached. He walked past the narrow path lined with succulents and cacti, and when he reached his backyard, he froze. There were at least 20 people in his yard. Adults held red Solo cups. Kids ran barefoot across the grass. A man stood at a grill, flipping burgers on a barbecue that wasn't his. The pool sparkled with movement. Children splashed in the water. Teenagers lounged on floaties. Music blasted from a Bluetooth speaker, one Keanu had never seen before. And there, in his favorite lounge chair, the one he had positioned perfectly under the shade of his pergola, sat Olivia. She wore a white bikini and oversized sunglasses, sipping a glass of wine like she was the queen of some summer kingdom. She looked up, saw Keanu, and smiled as if he were an old friend arriving at a friendly neighborhood gathering. "Oh hey Keanu. You're back early," she said casually as if she belonged there. Keanu didn't answer. He couldn't. He was too stunned. Olivia kept talking, unbothered, like this was her home. "We figured you wouldn't mind. You never used this place and the kids were dying for some pool time. And with this heat, well, it just made sense." Keanu's eyes moved slowly around the yard. Strangers walked through his garden, stepping over the plants he had cared for. Wet footprints covered his stone path. Greasy smoke from the grill rose over his aloe vera plants. There was no guilt in their faces. No hesitation. No shame. They were so confident, so sure they would face no consequences. Keanu opened his mouth. Then I closed it. His throat was dry, not with thirst but with quiet, simmering disbelief. Without a word, he turned around, walked through the house, locked the front door behind him, and sat on his couch. The sound of the party filtered in through the windows, an unwanted infection seeping into his home. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He didn't move for hours. The house felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. This wasn't just an invasion of space. It was something worse. A betrayal. Late into the night, the party finally began to die down. One by one, cars started, doors slammed, laughter faded into the distance. By the time the last footsteps disappeared, the neighborhood was quiet again. Keanu's hands trembled slightly. Not from fear. From anger. They thanked her. Not him. They had used his home, his pool, his peace, and given the credit to her. And worse, they had erased him. Turned him into a passive character in his own story. A ghost haunting the background of his own life. He stared at the black TV screen, his reflection staring back at him. He looked tired. Weathered. But something stirred in his chest. Not rage. Not fury. Something quieter. Sharper. Righteous anger. Keanu Reeves had spent his life avoiding conflict. People called him quiet, odd, reclusive. But there was a line. And Olivia had crossed it like it wasn't even there. This wasn't about kids anymore. It wasn't even about Olivia. It was about boundaries. About respect. About what happens when someone takes your kindness for weakness. Keanu took a deep breath. He turned off his phone, picked up a trash bag, and walked outside. He cleaned. Methodically. Without rush. Without emotion. But in his mind, a plan was already forming. They thought he wouldn't do anything. That was their first mistake. It would also be their last. The next morning, Keanu woke to a notification in the community group. Thanks for yesterday, Olivia. The party at Keanu's was amazing. He stared at the screen. And for the first time in years, Keanu Reeves was angry. Truly, deeply, angrily motivated. No more talking. No more reasoning. Just action. He drove to a security store. Spoke clearly. I need something that keeps people out. He left with reinforced locks. More cameras. Bright floodlights. And one special item, a chemical dye for the pool. Harmless but unmistakable. If someone peed in the water, it would glow. At a print shop, he ordered a custom sign. Pool water treated with chemical agent. Contact may cause skin irritation or discoloration. Trespassers will be recorded. That night, Keanu installed everything. Locked every lock. Wired every camera. Poured the dye into the pool. It looked the same, but it wasn't. By morning, the sign was up. Olivia walked past, saw it, and laughed. Drama, she muttered. 2 days passed. Quiet. Then, motion alert. Keanu checked the cameras. Olivia's kids scaled the gate. Again. One pointed at the sign. Then splash. They jumped in laughing. Keanu didn't react. He simply waited. Minutes passed. Then, the water changed. First blue. Then green. The kids screamed, scrambling out, staring at their skin in horror. One started crying. The other shouted. Then they ran. Keanu watched. Come. They wouldn't be back. And if they did, he was ready. A few minutes later, Olivia banged on Keanu's door. She was really mad. What did you do? She shouted. Keanu stood tall. I protected what's mine. You poisoned them, she yelled. No, Keanu said. I just added a harmless color to the water. And no one was supposed to be in my pool. Olivia froze. She knew he was right but didn't want to admit it. You're terrible. This is mean, she snapped. Keanu stepped closer. No, what's really wrong is teaching your kids they can take whatever they want, even when it's not theirs. Olivia huffed, grabbed her kids, and marched away angrily. That night, she sent messages to the neighborhood chat. Keanu is dangerous. He put chemicals in his pool. This is unsafe, she typed. Some neighbors agreed with her, but others didn't. A few reminded her. There was a warning sign. He told her not to go in. It's his pool. Olivia ignored those messages. She kept telling people, he tricked the kids. What kind of adult does that? But what she didn't know was that Keanu was watching everything and getting ready to answer back. That night, just after 8 p.m., Keanu posted in the neighborhood chat. Good evening. I've been quiet while you all talked about me. Now, I want to show you something. He added 4 short videos from his security cameras. The first video showed the boys climbing over his fence. The second video showed Olivia unlocking the gate herself. The third video showed a big party in his yard, loud music, lots of people, and Olivia relaxing in his chair. The fourth video showed the moment the water turned green. The chat went silent. Then people started commenting. Wait, She opened the gate herself? This isn't what Olivia said. That's a full party in his yard. I'd be mad too. Keanu didn't argue. He didn't say anything else. He just added one final sentence. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Olivia didn't reply. But this time, the silence wasn't helping her. The next day, Keanu sat by his window drinking tea and watching the street. Some neighbors who used to ignore him now gave him little nods or shy waves. No one said much, but they saw him differently now. That evening, there was a knock at his door. He opened it slowly. It was Olivia. No smile. No kids. Just her, alone, eyes full of anger. You embarrassed me, she said. Keanu said nothing. You made me look like a fool. Keanu's voice was calm. No, you did that all by yourself. Olivia's face turned red. You're just a lonely, bitter man hiding behind cameras and locks. Keanu didn't flinch. And you're the kind of person who teaches her kids that rules don't matter. She stared at him, her jaw tight. You think you've won? Keanu shrugged. I wasn't playing. Olivia let out a bitter laugh, stepped back and sneered. You're pathetic. Keanu met her eyes. Kindness isn't weakness. And being a mother doesn't mean you can break the rules. Olivia turned and walked away without another word. Keanu closed the door gently. Inside, everything was quiet. The air conditioner hummed. The clock ticked. Outside, the pool water rippled softly. The fight wasn't over yet. He could feel it. But this time he wasn't alone. The next morning, Keanu heard quiet footsteps in his yard. Then a strange sound. His security sensors beeped. Someone was there. But it wasn't kids. It was slow, careful. An adult. Keanu checked his security footage. A man walked toward the gate. Not Olivia. Her husband. He was tall, always in the background. But now he was creeping by the fence, holding a flashlight, trying to open the gate. The lock was held. He rattled it, stopped, then walked away. Keanu didn't react. He didn't need to. Later that day, Keanu posted one last message in the neighborhood chat. For those who wanted proof, I gave it. For those who doubted me, I forgive you. But I won't stay silent anymore. Attached was a final video. Every time someone trespassed, every lie, every moment. This time, no one defended Olivia. Keanu knew the battle wasn't over, but something had changed. More neighbors who once looked through him now gave him small nods when passing by. Some even offered a polite smile. He wasn't invisible anymore. That night, as he sat by his window, Keanu thought about everything. He never wanted trouble. He never wanted to be in a battle with his neighbors. But he also knew he had a right to defend his home. He sighed, taking another sip of tea. Meanwhile, Olivia wasn't done. She was still furious. She knocked on doors, whispering to anyone who would listen. Keanu is dangerous, she said. He's not a good person. He tricked the kids. He hates joy. He hates families. Some listened. Some nodded. But others were now unsure. They had seen the videos. They knew she had lied. If he was so bad, one woman muttered, then why did you throw a party in his yard? Olivia didn't answer. She only walked away, face red. The next morning, Keanu checked his cameras again. The neighborhood was quiet. No one had tried to break in this time. But he knew better than to let his guard down. A few days passed and things slowly changed. Olivia wasn't as loud anymore. Fewer people listened to her. Keanu even noticed some kids who used to run past his house now slow down and look at him differently. One even waved. Keanu didn't wave back, but he gave a small nod. That was enough. The neighborhood would never be perfect. Olivia might never stop. But for the first time, Keanu knew he wasn't fighting alone. And that was enough for now. Olivia had crossed a line. At first, everything was quiet. Then, little by little, people started talking. Comments appeared. This changes everything. I'm so sorry, Keanu. I should have spoken up sooner. We owe you respect. It wasn't a moment for cheering. It was just the truth. And the truth didn't need clapping. That afternoon, Olivia came to his door for the last time. She didn't knock, she banged. Keanu opened the door slowly. Her eyes were red and her face was tight with anger. You ruined my life, she yelled. Keanu stayed calm. No, Olivia. You did that when you lied. You made everyone hate me, she shouted. Keanu sighed. People don't hate you. They just finally saw the truth. Olivia's voice shook. You don't understand. I was just trying to make things fun. You sit in your house like a ghost. You never talk to anyone. Keanu stepped closer. And does that mean you can take what isn't yours? Olivia flinched. You're just an old man with a pool. Keanu didn't look away. And you're a grown woman who never learned the word no. Olivia's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness but from shame. She whispered, "You think this is over?" Keanu tilted his head. "For you maybe it isn't, but for me it is." Olivia shook her head, turned around, and walked away, stiff with anger. She was mad because she had lost control of the story. Keanu closed the door. The silence returned, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was real. That evening, as the sun set, Keanu went to his backyard. The pool was still. The sign was still there. The locks hadn't been touched. For the first time in weeks, there were no footprints. Only peace. He sat in his favorite chair and let the quiet surround him. He didn't feel like he won. He just felt whole again. His message was finally heard. But then, as night fell, he heard a soft noise near the gate. A latch clicking. Someone was trying to get in, but failing. The night was still. No voices. No splashing. No music. Just the soft wind through the trees. Keanu looked at his phone. The security cameras lit up. A man moved in the shadows. He wasn't in a hurry. He wasn't loud. He was careful. Olivia's husband. The man looked around, then reached for the latch. Click. The lock held tight. Then suddenly the sprinklers turned on. Water sprayed out, soaking him completely. He jumped back, shocked. Keanu smiled, not to be mean but because he felt at peace. He didn't yell. He didn't go outside. He didn't have to. He just watched. And for the first time he truly felt it, the quiet he had fought for. Not just an empty silence, but real peace. In the days after, everything changed. Olivia stopped walking by his house. Her kids stopped peeking over the fence. No more parties. No more knocks. No more messages. Neighbors nodded when they saw him. Some even said sorry. Keanu didn't brag. He didn't stay angry. He just nodded back and moved on. His pool stayed clean. His backyard stayed peaceful. His home was his again. He spent his mornings reading under the shade. Afternoons trimming his plants. Evenings watching the sun turn gold in the sky. The camera stayed up. The sign stayed up. But he didn't check the security feeds all the time anymore. He didn't need to. The message was clear now. One evening, while drinking tea, Keanu looked at the pool and thought, "It's strange how something as simple as setting rules can make people so upset." But it was never about the pool. It was about respect. People cross lines when they think you won't stop them. And it's important, so important, to say no and mean it. Even if it's hard. Even if you're alone. Especially then. He never spoke to Olivia again. He didn't have to. Some people only understand when they are ignored. When they finally feel the same discomfort they gave to others. And Keanu? He didn't need revenge. He didn't need anyone to cheer for him. He just needed peace. And now he had it. Keanu had always been a quiet man. He didn't like drama, and he never wanted to be in the middle of trouble. But when someone takes away your peace, you have to fight for it. He remembered how it all started. Olivia had always acted like she owned the neighborhood. She threw loud parties and used Keanu's pool without asking. He had tried to be nice about it. He put up a sign. He locked the gate. But Olivia didn't listen. She laughed it off. And then she lied. She told everyone that Keanu was a mean old man who hated kids. That he was selfish for keeping his pool to himself. People believed her. They whispered about him. They stopped talking to him. But the truth always comes out. And when it did, Olivia was the one who lost everything. Now Keanu sat by his pool and smiled. The water was clear. The night was calm. He had fought for this peace and it was finally his. Not just silence. Real earned peace. If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.